Good afternoon, everybody. So let's resume our journey. I left you why this movement was known as Naxalism in India, because this was the first documented armed rebellion which happened in Naxalbari village, and it was done by peasant against the landlord in independent India. So that's why first movement to be named after the place. So the followers of this ideology is known as Naxals. Now in 1967, as we talked about that incident in which Mr. Sonam Wangdi was killed, and as a follow-up, around 11 people lost their life, and that's why on 25th of May every day from that year onwards it is celebrated as Naxal Day. So what happened, since this was a very big incident? So in 1967, we are talking about first stage. (1967 to 1975). So in 1967, communists from all over India came to Kolkata, and they formed All India Coordination Committee. This was formed in November 1967. In 1968, in May, it was renamed as All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionaries. Now this All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionaries declared certain ideological objectives. And what were those? The first was to follow protracted people's war, the ideology propagated by Mao. That is, here no time frame was provided, but the ultimate aim was to achieve the end objective of capturing the power at the center. So protracted people's war was the first declared ideological objective. Second was establishment of rural revolutionary base area. Third was to practice guerrilla war. As I told you, it basically pertains to fast attack and fast retreat. And fourth was not to participate in election, right? So that was the declared ideological objective of AICCR. A bit of the PDF of the chapter I have already finished will be shared by the office, and it will be shared after my class ends, right? So I will tell them what all I have finished and they will send you accordingly. Don't worry about it. You will be getting it, right? Now, since their declared objective was not to fight an election, it created a rift here. Now, they thought that if they don't have representative in parliament, their voices won't be heard. And through their representative, they may be able to mobilize the masses, because their voices will be heard. They will be fighting for them. And that's why here what happened was that some of the radical elements were thrown out of this organization, and in 1969 CPI-ML, Marxist Leninist, Communist Party of India, Marxist Leninist, came into being. Now It was a very dreaded organization, and it started spreading its tentacle very rapidly in every direction. Now, this movement, as it started in West Bengal, it spread to Odisha, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. So, these were the places it covered within a span of 2 years or so. So, by 1971, this movement was at its peak, and it was spreading like a wildfire. Now, why this movement was spreading so fast? Basically because it got support from almost all sections of the society, be it peasant, tribals, educated professionals, unemployed, youth, etc. So, when it was getting support from almost all sections of the society, then it started spreading very fast. But in 1971, a very important incident happened in its vicinity, which is known as Operation Steeplechase. Now, what was this Operation Steeplechase and what it has to do with this movement? Now, you may remember that in 1971, Bangladesh is in the vicinity of West Bengal, and we were going to have war with East Pakistan, now Bangladesh. Now, in this area, West Bengal, these Naxals were operating. They were anti-establishment, fearing that they may play in the foreign hands. So, the security forces don't wanted to take any chance. So, they wanted to clear this area of these people. So, they launch Operation Steeplechase. Now, with the help of the state police and the defense forces, army, they cleared this whole area, and in the major operation, many leaders and cadres got eliminated. Even the famous personality like Charu Majumdar, he was also arrested in 1972, and he died in police custody. He was arrested in 1971 and he died in police custody in 1972 under mysterious circumstances. Now, the main leaders of this movement was Charu Majumdar, Kanu Sanyal and Jungle Santhal. Now, but the major, you can say the most important among them was Charu Majumdar, who was leading the movement, and he was at the helm. So, after he died and lots of his leader and cadres were eliminated, this movement started falling or started dwindling. And in 1975, emergency was imposed in the country, and around 40,000 of its cadre who were operating in this area were put behind bars, and many others were eliminated. So, now this movement came to a complete standstill. So, the movement which started in 1967 gained momentum between 1969 and 71 and reached its peak in 71, came to a complete halt in 1975. So, this was the first stage of this movement. Now, the second stage. See, this is a protracted people's war. No time frame is set. So what happened? They lie low for 5 years or so till the time situation was normal and conducive for them to operate. And in 1980 they started to regroup. So what happened was that CPI-ML broke up into People's War Group, which was operating in Andhra Pradesh. Now, it was a very dreaded organization and it was targeting the establishment, and mostly its target were policemen. Now, why they targeted policemen? Because by targeting policemen, they wanted to give out a clear-cut message that the people who have been entrusted with the task of putting law and order in place, they are not safe. And if they are not safe, how the common masses will be safe? So, due to this, it has used psychological impact on the masses, and this movement started spreading rapidly throughout Andhra Pradesh and engulfed most of its Andhra Pradesh under its tentacle. This became such a dreaded organization that it didn't even spare the chief minister of the state, and it tried to assassinate the chief minister. So, in 1992, this was banned in Andhra Pradesh, but this did not deter them much. So, in order to counter it, a greyhound was created. Now, what was greyhound? Now, greyhound was a special force which was created out of local youth. Now, why it was done? It was basically done because these local youth, they were acclimatized to a particular environment. They knew the terrain very well. They spoke the local language. The local people, their relatives, their friends supported them, and that's why they were thought to be a potent force. So, they were trained by the army and they were to fight against the Naxal. Now, this greyhound became such a formidable force that it started pushing back Naxals from Andhra Pradesh, and in no time most of the Andhra Pradesh were cleared of Naxals. They were also getting supports from the surrendered Naxals in this operation. Now, during the same time period, Maoist Communist Center MCC was started operating in Bihar. But here the fight was of different kind. Now, they were not targeting the policemen or the establishment. They were mostly targeting the landlords and the upper caste. Now, here upper caste were in such a fear that they had to create their own private army to protect themselves, and that's how Ranbir Sena and many other Sena came into being. And they used to fight the Naxals, and some of the major massacres were carried out in Bihar, and lots of people from both sides lost their lives. And in 2004, what happened was both People's War Group and Maoist Communist Center came together to form CPIM, CPI, Maoist, Communist Party of India, Maoist. Now, this became such a dreaded organization that all the major attack on security forces which happened after this, the CPIM hands can be found in that, be it Dantewada attack, Sukma attack, or in which in Sukma attack 27 politicians were killed when their convoy were targeted. Dantewada, the CRPF, 76 CRPF personnel lost their life. So, these were the major attacks. So, what the government did was that it banned CPIM along with all its formation and frontal organization and put it under Terrorist Act as per UPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. And this was such a dreaded organization that our previous Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, has to publicly acknowledge that Naxalism is the biggest internal security threat the country is facing today. So, just imagine if a Prime Minister of a country talks about an organization which is a threat to internal security, how big that threat will be. Now, so we have talked about ideology, we have talked about phases in how they operate, we have talked about stages as to how this movement spread throughout India. Now, in this third stage, which started after 2003, what happened? It became a banned organization. It could not participate in election. It could not have any representative, etc. And it was fighting the security forces and targeting the security forces, sometimes politicians. Now we have to understand, we have understood development, we have understood what is left-wing extremism and how it operated in India and how it spread in India. Now, we have to link development with as how development led to spread of left-wing extremism. So, for this, I will provide you with some necessary information which will be helping you to understand how development has led to this, right? Now, suppose if I tell you that how far Forest Act can be held accountable for the spread of left-wing extremism. So, here you have to understand that the first Forest Act 1927 was enacted by the Britishers, and through this act the Britishers questioned the presence of tribal in the forest. It was like I entering into your house and asking you why you are staying here, because for the tribals this forest was their home and they were living there from generations, and they considered it to be as their home. They and their family survived from the forest produce. The Britishers questioned that presence, and these innocent people continued to be exploited under the colonial instrument till 1980, when Forest Conservation Act was enacted. Now, in Forest Conservation Act 1980, 24th October midnight was set as a deadline to incorporate their name in the land record list. Now, do you think tribals are literate enough to go to the government official and incorporate their name in the land record list by showing some documents to prove that they are the owner of that particular piece of land? No way. Because these tribals did not have any proof that they are the owner of this particular piece of land. Because there is a tradition in which elder community member pass on the information to the younger community member as from which piece of land they and their family can take the produce and survive. And that particular tract of land belongs to that particular family. So, that was the provision. Now, it was the duty of the government official to visit every village, interact with elder community members, and incorporate the name of rightful land owner in the land record under various khata and khasra number. But this was never done. So, in the absence of this land record, what was happening? In the name of development, whenever land was allocated, what happened? Whenever land was allocated in the name of development, someone got displaced from that piece of land, and it was not a small piece of land that was given in the name of development. Large and large tracts of land were given in which hundreds of families were affected. So, those families got displaced. As their name did not figure in the land record list, so they were never rehabilitated, neither compensated. Though there were provision for rehabilitation and compensation, but only for those whose name figure in the land record list. So, now these innocent tribals were bearing the burnt of it. Now, they were being displaced, but they were never rehabilitated. As a result, as I told you, that the Naxals were smart enough to operate in the territory where this kind of activity was going on, so that it was easy for them to convince those people that the government is doing nothing for them, but they are actually punishing them by taking away the piece of land through which they and their family were surviving. And now these people have nowhere to go. They are not literate, they are poor, they are unemployed. So, how they will support themselves and their families? There are no other means of livelihood. The area is not developed. So, in the name of development, when they were displaced, neither compensated nor rehabilitated, they had no other option but to join the ideology that was prevalent in that particular area. And that ideology was of Naxal's ideology that was prevailing in those areas. So, these people joined the Naxal movement. Am I clear? So, how Forest Act can be held accountable for spread of left-wing extremism? Similarly, how far fifth schedule can be held responsible for spread of left-wing extremism? Now, as all of you know that in our constitution there is a provision that all scheduled area of a country which are inhabited by scheduled tribe, now that area is to be governed by governor of a state by forming tribal advisory council, and based on the advice of tribal advisory council, any developmental work can be undertaken in that particular area. But you will be surprised to know that though the provision was there, as late as 2010, only few tribal advisory council was there. So, in the absence of tribal advisory council, what was happening? In the name of development, land was being leased out to whom? Big industrial houses for power project, for mining, etc. And all in the name of development. And ultimately these people got displaced. Their name did not figure in the land record. So, they were neither compensated nor rehabilitated. But they had no other option except to join left-wing extremist movement or to support the Naxal ideology, because these people fed them and their families. And that's why they started supporting it, that they have saved their life and the government is a mute spectator. Now, third, how far ninth schedule can be held accountable for spread of left-wing extremism? Now, in ninth schedule, there was a provision of land reform, and as land reform is a state subject, so it was the duty of state to carry out land reform. In 1955, till 1955 I must say, only 3 states, Jammu and Kashmir, Kerala and West Bengal, carried out land reform. Now the question arises, even if land reform was carried in West Bengal, why there is a problem of Naxalism? Because in Jammu and Kashmir and Kerala, there were no problem of Naxalism, but in West Bengal there was a problem. And why that was so? Basically because in West Bengal, what happened? These landlords who were known as Jamindars or Jotedars, they were smart people. Now, for example, if the government stipulated that nobody can be a owner of more than 2 acres of land, and if somebody is found to be in possession of more than 2 acres, that excess land will be taken from them and will be redistributed to the landless people. Now, what exactly happened in West Bengal was that the Jamindar or Jotedars who were in possession of hundreds and thousands of acres of land distributed those lands in the name of their relatives, families, some of the friends, drivers, peons, servants, etc. So, on paper, they were owner of only say 2 acres of land, but in reality, they were the owners of 100 or 1000 of acres of land. So, in government record, no surplus land was shown so that they can be redistributed to the landless. And the government has promised the landless people that they will be taking the surplus land from these people and redistributing it to the landless. So, this created a what I can say apprehension and tension in the state, and that is how this movement started in West Bengal, because people thought that now government has failed in keeping its promise and now it is the time for them to take the matters in their own hand, and that is how this Naxalbari incident started and the movement gathered momentum after that. Clear? So, here from this argument probably you could have understood why also 9th schedule can be held accountable for spread of left wing extremism. Now, similarly, PESA Act, Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Area Act 1996. Now, this act was basically enacted to give more power to the tribals and especially to the Gram Sabha. It recognized their traditional rights of forest. And what happened? This Gram Sabha, without the permission of Gram Sabha, no developmental work can be undertaken in that area, the area which is protected by PESA Act. Now, since it was a strong act, then how it was misused? Now, you will be surprised to know that on closer scrutiny, you will find that PESA Act is only for rural scheduled area. No such act were debated or enacted for urban scheduled area. So, whenever this act was to be misused, what the government did? It upgraded the rural scheduled area into urban scheduled area, and once it was upgraded to urban scheduled area, it bypassed the PESA law. Now, PESA law was not applicable in the urban scheduled area, and that is how this act started to be misused. In the land of in the name of development, the government, state government started leasing out land to big industrial houses, friends, etc., in the name of development. And it was the tribal peoples who were at the receiving end, because they were displaced, they were not rehabilitated or compensated. There are more than 600 instances of PESA Act misuse. So, I hope this particular part, background part, is clear to you people. So, you have stood about development, now you have stood about left wing extremism. You have also understood how development is leading to spread of left wing extremism, right? Now, if we talk about, now let's try to depict it through diagram to have better understanding. See, in the name of development, land is given to the big industrial houses, business houses, and on this particular land, tribals are living. The area here, there is a lack of development. There is hardly any development in this area, where this, because these land are rich in mineral resources. So, big industrial houses, mining, power project, etc. are being set up in this area, and this area totally lacks development. Now, the people who are displaced, nor rehabilitated, neither compensated, so they are poor people, illiterate people, now they become unemployed. Now, this leads to a feeling of marginalization and seclusion. Now, one way of understanding this is, I am again giving you example. Try to understand this. Suppose someone enters into your house, throws all your belonging on the road. What will you do? If you are strong enough, you will fight with them. If you are not strong enough, you will complain your neighbors, etc. Even if they did not come to your help, you approach police station. The police will also, if they will not help you, what will you do? You will try to contact those people who have been affected like these, and you will try to fight back and reclaim your home, right? So, same thing was happening here as well. Now, what kind of feeling you will have? You will be disconnected with the society because no one from the society came to help you. You will have discontent with the government, that the government is not functioning here. So, these two feelings will lead to what? Feeling of marginalization and seclusion. You will feel marginalized and secluded, and you will approach those people who have faced the similar fate, or you will start playing in the hands of those people who will promise you that they will help you in getting back your home. So, exactly the same thing is happening here. The tribals, poor and innocent people, they have been displaced. They were neither compensated nor rehabilitated because their name did not figure in the land record list. Here there is hardly any development, so hardly any employment opportunity available. They have their families to support, children to feed, and it was the forest which was helping them. Now, they have been uprooted or displaced from that, and they hardly have any alternative. Now, in this area, left-wing extremist ideology is prevalent, as I have told you. So, they feel marginalized and secluded. So, this leads to a feeling of discontent with the government and disconnect with society. And why this is happening? Basically because there is lack of governance here. If there was proper governance, then probably this thing wouldn't have happened. And why there is lack of governance? Basically because corrupt government official and lack of implementation of special policies. Because if the government officials were not corrupt, then they would have visited every village and incorporated the name of rightful landowner in the land record list. But in connivance with the business houses, industrialist houses, etc., they didn't do that, so that these business houses or industrialist houses don't have to pay for compensation or rehabilitation. And since hardly any government machinery is functioning in that area, so there is hardly any implementation of a special policy that is meant for that area. Are you getting my point? So every time the development happens, more and more people joins the left-wing extremist, right? So this leads to what? This creates a vicious circle. Moreover, the people who are living in this area, they are not economically well off. The primary source is only agriculture, sometimes supplemented by mining and forestry. They hardly produce enough to support themselves and their families. Hardly any surplus is left so that they can sell in the market and have some money for the crisis situation. Now, if we talk about the social condition, now as it is pretty much evident that it is different in different parts of India. If we analyze Bihar and Jharkhand, there is a fight for dominance between the tribal and the caste. Now, if we talk about South, now there is a fight to ride up in the social ladder. So there they are fighting mostly the upper class, upper caste. So these are the things which we have to keep in mind. So the first part, rationale for Naxal movement. So these things are clear: displacement, rehabilitation, economic condition and social condition. Now, if we talk about rehabilitation, then from 1951 to 1990, according to official figure, 1951 to 1990s, 21.3 million people got displaced, out of whom 8.52 millions were tribals, of whom only 2.12 million could be rehabilitated. So just imagine about the 60 lakh of, nearly 60 lakh of people, or 6.5 lakh of people. What will they do? They will definitely join the Naxal movement, which were projecting to support their cause, supporting their families, them. So I hope rationale for Naxal movement is clear. Now, what steps were taken by the government? Now, if we talk about the steps taken by the government, now when our previous Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh, publicly acknowledged that Naxalism is the biggest internal security threat the country is facing today. So it was pretty much clear that now it was no longer law and order problem. So it was not the state responsibility to fight Naxalism. Now it was a time when center has to intervene, because according to constitution, center has to intervene in case of external aggression and internal rebellion. Now once it become an internal security problem, so it is the duty of the central government to take matter in its own hand, because the scale and magnitude of the problem is now lot more bigger, more and more states are affected. So no longer it can be considered as law and order problem or public order problem. It is an internal security problem. So in order to show the political resolve, that unless and until you have a strong political resolve, you cannot fight the problem, what do you say, to the end. And so in doing that, what was happening? First and foremost, what step the government took, so that in order to show that it has a strong political will to fight this problem. A separate Naxal management division was created under Ministry of Home Affairs. So if a separate department is created, it definitely showed the seriousness of the government, that how serious the government is for fighting this problem. Secondly, a high level coordination center was established under the Union Home Secretary, comprising the members, Chief Secretary and Director General of Police of all Naxal affected states as its member. Now try to understand this. Why this was created, high level coordination center. Since it was no longer a law and order problem, it was not concerned with any state. So the government tried to create a high level coordination center, so that what it will do, it will create coordination at highest administrative level, and it will be monitored by Union Home Secretary, the highest administrative body in the center, and the highest administrative body in the state is the Chief Secretary and the Director General of the Police. So if they are the member, then there will be coordination at the highest administrative level. So this was the reason behind creating this particular high level coordination center. Now third was, see, you cannot solve the problem until and unless you know the root cause of the problem. Now what was the root cause of the problem? The government did not knew about it. Why this happened? So they established a 16-member expert committee under the chairmanship of Mr. D. Bandyopadhyay to study the root cause of Naxalism. And fourth step that was taken by the government in this direction under political measures, that the Chief Minister's Conference on Internal Security started to be held in New Delhi from 2009 onwards every year. So hopefully you remember, just now I told you that the government created a coordination at highest administrative level. So similarly, the government also wanted to create coordination at highest political level. So that's why Chief Minister Conference on Internal Security started to be held in New Delhi, wherein Chief Minister of all the Naxal affected state attended these meetings. So if there is a coordination at highest administrative level, highest political level, separate department to look after this problem, and you know the root cause of the problem, then you can contain that problem in totality. That was the motive, right? And it showed strong political will of the government to fight this menace. Now, there were certain obstacles in this. Now, what was those obstacles? Now, the political ideology of the party ruling the center and the ideology of the party ruling the state, if it differs, then it may create problem in common fight. And you people may be knowing about it in the present scenario also, that most often there is a confrontation between center and state on various matters in which the center and state do not agree. So that is obstacle number one. Obstacle number two, lack of coordination between state police and central armed police forces. Now, the state police thinks that they are in a better position to lead this fight, and so they should be leading it because they are acclimatized, they know the local language, they have access to local intelligence, they know the local language, they have the support of local people. Whereas on the other hand, central armed police forces thinks that they are better trained, better equipped, they have sophisticated weapons, so they may be leading this fight, and this leads to what? Tussle between the state police and central armed police forces, and it impedes in fight against the common enemy. Third obstacle in this, that no politician ever want any military action in their constituency, because these tribals people also constitute a particular constituency for the politicians, and if any military action is done here, then the politician is sure to lose election next time. So that is the third obstacle in this. Now, socio-economic measures. Now, under socio-economic measures, as I told you, when the government set up an expert committee under the chairmanship of Mr. D. Bandyopadhyay to study the root cause of Naxalism, the expert group observed that SC and ST, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, are exploited throughout the country, or they are facing discrimination on social, economic, political and cultural front. And the committee established that the lack of empowerment of local communities are the main reasons for the spread of Naxalism. Lack of empowerment of the common communities or the peoples are the main reason for the spread of Naxalism. So it further stated that the state, and it also stated that the state bureaucracy had failed miserably in delivering good governance. It was very straightforward in this regard. And so they recommended tribal friendly land acquisition and rehabilitation policy. At the same time, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, MOTA, also asserted that scheduled tribes were suffering from deep sense of deprivation on account of social, political and economic factor, resulting in acute poverty and lack of adequate opportunity. Now, when the government got this report from both the sources, it tried to act proactively, and what it did? Under Backward District Initiative, it immediately launched Rashtriya Sam Vikas Yojana in 147 districts of the country to provide immediate relief. Backward Region Grant Fund was initiated in 250 districts of the country. And the Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana was utilized to provide rural connectivity to inaccessible area. So, these were the immediate steps. As a follow-up, what the government did, in order to holistically address the left-wing extremist problem, the government formulated National Policy and Action Plan, adopting multi-pronged strategy. And these strategies were adopted mostly in areas of security, development and ensuring rights of entitlement. So, these were the areas in which government was focusing. So, some of the important initiative that was taken up by the central government in coordination with the Naxal affected states to fight Naxalism. Now, they are So, these were the program initiated by the state government in collaboration with the central government, in collaboration with the state government, and they are security related expenditure scheme, special infrastructure scheme, fortified police station, integrated action plan, civic action program, Roshni scheme, compensation to victim of Naxal, terrorist and communal violence. This was started in 2009, and cross border firing, improvised explosive device, mine blast, these were added in 2016. Now, one by one I will discuss this in detail. Now, first is security related expenditure scheme. Now, what exactly is that? See, try to understand, every state has a limited budget through which it gives salaries, insurance and undertakes developmental work for a state, correct? And this money comes from the center, and some of the money the state government raises on its own. Now, when the center declared it to be internal security problem, the state government told the center about its inability to fight Naxalism, because if they will fight Naxalism, other developmental work will suffer and they are not in a position to fight this. So, what the center did? The center told the state, don't worry, whatever fund you will be incurring on fighting the Naxals, that expenditure will be reimbursed by center to you, right? And this scheme lapsed in 2020, but under sub scheme of modernization of police force, it was given an extension of another 6 years. So, now it has been extended to 2026. The estimated time in which the government thinks that Naxalism will be over. So, under this what happens? Whatever expenses state government incurs on insurance and rehabilitation of security forces, rehabilitation of say surrendered Naxals, militant, insurgent, etc., plus expenditure on propaganda material, awareness material, you can say, expenditure on forming village defense committee, providing training, procuring arms and ammunition. So, whatever expenses the state government will be incurring on these, it will be reimbursed by the central government to the state government under security related expenditure scheme. Second one is Special Infrastructure Scheme, SIS. Now, what is Special Infrastructure Scheme? Now, this scheme was initiated during the 11th plan with an outlay of rupees 500 crore. Now, the outlay has been increased to 750 crore and it is to cater to critical infrastructure gaps. Now, let us try to understand what is critical infrastructure gaps. Now, suppose a helipad has to be built for rapid deployment or withdrawal of security forces from a certain area. So, in this case, the security forces do not have to wait for approval. They can utilize this fund for the construction of helipads. Now, suppose they are pursuing the Naxals and the Naxals blew up the bridge. So, the security forces will hire motorboat or the local boatman, etc., and pay them so that they can pursue the Naxals. So, these are the critical, like suppose they are pursuing the Naxals and the Naxals bombs the road and they destroy certain portions of the road. So, in that situation also, they will carry out immediate repair work and pay for them and continue pursuing the Naxals. So, this is known as critical infrastructure gaps. So, this fund was meant to cater to critical infrastructure gaps. Now, suppose security forces wants to provide some special training or wants to provide or procure some special weapon. So, they can do so by utilizing this fund. So, this is known as Special Infrastructure Scheme. Now, third is fortified police station. Now, what is fortified police station? Now, the primary target of the Naxals were the police station which were located nearby. So, what was the modus operandi of the Naxals? The Naxals tried to encircle the police station, torch the police station so that policemen flee from the spot, and they used to loot their weapons, ammunition, etc., and use the same against them. So, after lots of discussion and all, the government thought of coming up with fortified police station. Now, this police station will be fireproof and bomb proof, and it is to be built at a cost of rupees 2 crore per police station, where 80% of the cost will be borne by central government and 20% of the cost will be borne by state government. It will be equipped with all the modern gadgets, and it will warn the police, say if the Naxals are within the vicinity of 2 kilometers or so, and it will have enough ammunition, ration, etc., so that they can fight the Naxals for at least 7 days, and this is long period for the reinforcement to come. And this was mainly created or mainly done to instill a confidence in the local population that the government machinery is working, and to deter Naxals from that particular area. Now, the government has given a go ahead to construct 400 fortified police stations in 10 Naxal affected states. Now, Civic Action Program, CAP. Now, what is Civic Action Program and why this program was started? First, try to understand this. Now, this Civic Action Program was started to bring the security forces and the community members closer to each other. Now, how to bring security forces and members closer to each other? So, first the government started with project oriented approach. Now, here security forces will be working on a particular project which is going to help the whole community member. Now, if whole community member is being benefited by a particular project, then sooner or later they are bound to come closer to the security forces, because they are ultimately helping them. But again, the Naxals, they are very smart. They allowed the project to be constructed, inaugurated, and after inauguration they used to bomb the project, so that no community's member can use the project, and so no one will be coming closer to the security forces. And for security forces, it was a mere waste of time, money, energy, etc. So, when this went for longer time, then the government was forced to rethink. The government was forced to rethink on its strategy, what to do. So, it came up with the idea of individual oriented approach. So, instead of working on the project, Now the security forces started working on the individual or family, and if any individual or family got benefited by the security forces, then definitely they will come closer to them. For example, if any individual or family is in need of medical help where lots and lots of money is needed, and in that case if the security forces comes forward and meets the individual or the family member without they incurring the cost, so definitely they will feel obliged to the security forces, and this the Naxal will not be able to bomb. And this strategy started working in favor of the security forces. And it started bringing individual and families closer to the security forces. Then Roshni scheme. No, integrated action plan, I missed. Now, integrated action plan. Integrated action plan, basically the Planning Commission of India. Now, it's no more. A new body has taken its place. So, the planning committee identified 88 worst affected districts of the country, worst affected districts, so as to bring about accelerated development in these. Now, it was to have three members, which was to be led by district magistrate comprising of superintendent of police and district forest officer, DFO. Now, it will be given a budget of rupees 30 crore to bring about accelerated development of our districts. Now, through this budget, they can work on Anganwadi project, building primary schools, health centers, PDS, minor irrigation, telephones, etc. But this was, you can say, not so successful because the problem of Naxalism remained at ease. So, it was found that though district development was there, but the blocks which was affected by the Naxals, that block was not developed. So, the present government did away with district development approach and adopted block development approach, so that if every block is developed, then naturally the problem of Naxalism will go down, and this comes under the anti-Naxal doctrine of the present government. The other thing which the present government did under anti-Naxal doctrine, that it offered certain incentive to the motivated employee who on their own volunteered to work in the Naxal affected area from top to bottom. It was, this incentive was open to all from top to bottom, that is from the constable level up to the superintendent of police level. So, after completing their tenure, Now, these people were entitled to choice posting first, second, central deputation, given extra incentives or allowance, and fourth, foreign visit abroad. Third, under anti-Naxal doctrine, even the central government services were open to the tribal youths, and the tribal leaders, they were facilitated, they were recognized, and it was done by renaming the airport in their name, major roads, celebrating their festival, constructing museums, cultural centers in major states, etc., so that they feel that they are the part of this country. The government has not forgotten them, and they are doing a lot for them. So, this is integrated action plan and anti-Naxal doctrine of the present government. Now, coming to the Roshni scheme. Roshni scheme, basically you can say it is the skill development cum employment scheme. Now, for this purpose, 22 worst affected districts were selected, and in these districts 50,000 tribal men and women were imparted necessary vocational skills, so that it will help them in getting employment opportunity. Now, even under them, PVTGS, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, they were given more importance, right. So, this was the Roshni scheme. Now, compensation to victims of Naxal, terrorist and communal violence. Compensation to victims of Naxal, terrorist and communal violence. This was started in 2009, and here the victim's family used to get rupees 3 lakh as compensation. But in 2016, this was made more broad base, because lots and lots of people started dying due to cross border firing, improvised explosive device and mine blast. So, the government also wanted to include them under this scheme, and that is why from 2016 onwards the compensation amount was increased to rupees 5 lakhs, and now the compensation was given to victims of Naxal, terrorist, communal, cross border firing, improvised explosive device and mine blast family member as rupees 5 lakh from 2016 onwards. So, this was socio-economic measures. Now, counter revolutionary measure, which is also known as security measure, it is based on lie, but it is a truth. where L stands for locate, I stands for isolate, and E stands for eradicate. Now try to understand what is this strategy. So under counter-revolutionary measure, the first strategy is to, okay, lots of question has come. So before starting this topic, let me take up the question. Yes, CPIM are Naxalites, definitely. So if CPIM banned, then how it participates? See, CPI, Marxist and Leninist participate, not Maoist. CPIM is Maoist. Marxist, it's not Maoist. CPI Marxist. CPIM is CPI Marxist. M stands for Marxist, not for Maoist. What is the aspirational district program? I will coming to it. So what is the criteria that is to be filled by a district to get tag of left-wing extremist free district? See, it is seen that, see, in any district there are lots of blocks. So previously, that's why I told you that previously we had IAP, Integrated Action Plan, where the main focus was to bring about development of a district. These bureaucrats are smart people. What they used to do, like suppose in one district comprises of 6 blocks and 3 blocks are Naxal infested and 3 blocks are relatively normal blocks. So they used to bring about development in normal blocks, and on paper district development was there. So they were not telling lie, but the problem was not solved. So that's why the present government, instead of focusing on district development, started focusing on block development. And as it focused on block development, so what happened? Even the Naxal affected block has to be developed. And if it is to be developed, then it was seen that the problem of nationalism goes down. Now in Bihar, Jahanabad, there is a place, I am forgetting that name. Due to developmental work, the Naxal renounced the Naxalism and came into the mainstream, because nobody wants to pick up guns. If you provide them with the employment, adequate employment opportunity, if they start earning money on their own and they start supporting their families, everybody want to lead a normal life. Why to hide in jungle and fight the security forces? Nobody wants that. So once the government realized this, then it started taking these steps and the people started returning into the mainstream of the society. Now coming to the counter-revolutionary measures. Now under counter-revolutionary measures, what was happening? As I told you, it is based on 3 strategies: locate, isolate and eradicate. So location means what? Locate means what? To locate what? To locate the base area, that is the most important area of the Naxals. Now which is the most important area? It is the base area of the Naxals. So once the security forces has to locate the base area. How will locate the base area? Now they will be using the modern technology, for example drone, satellite, etc., and through that they will come to know about which is their base area by monitoring them. Now once you locate the base, then what next you have to do? Next you have to isolate. Isolate whom? Isolate the Naxals from the commoners, because it's not that once you have identified the base area, you will encircle it and you will kill everybody, because there are lots of innocent people, say many children, many women, many many other innocent tribals who are inhabiting those areas. So the major task before the security forces was that since they have identified the base area, they now had to isolate. So how to isolate them? Now in order to isolate the Naxals from the commoner, in military parlance, they have to relocate the whole population to a point where 24/7 eye can be kept by an expert, and through them they can segregate the Naxal from the commoner. But this incurred huge expenses, and it was not possible for a country like India to incur that much of cost. So what India will do if it is not able to bear the cost and it has to sort out the problem? So there is a terminology which is very popular in India, and it is known as jugaad. Now through this what happen is, like suppose if you cannot purchase say costly item, you can replicate that by making certain modification, etc., at a lower price, and normally what happens is that in this the cost is very low. So in case of this particular aspect, this jugaad came in form of Salva Judum movement. So what is Salva Judum movement? Let's try to understand. Salva Judum means peace hunt. In local Gondi tribal dialect. So what is this peace hunt? And why this program was started? Now, this movement was started. Now, this movement was started by the tribals of Kutru village. It is in Chhattisgarh. Now, here the tribals of the Kutru village, they were collecting tendu leaves and supporting their families by selling those leaves in the market. Now the Naxals objected to the collection of tendu leaves, and they wanted the collection of tendu leaves to be in their own hand, so that they can manipulate the prices of tendu leaves. But the tribal refused to do so, because that was the only source of livelihood for them, and through that they were supporting their children and families. So, this led to confrontation between the tribals and the Naxals, and the government thought of that it was a God-sent opportunity, and now through this they will be able to isolate the Naxals from the commoners. So, what they did? They started providing funds to the tribal, they started arming the tribals, and they started providing training to the tribals to fight the Naxals. So, initially this was a very successful one, and the Naxals were on the back foot. So, what the Naxal did? As I told you, they are very smart people. So, they worked on two strategies, at the local level and at the central level. At the local level, what they did? They had a strong propaganda machinery, and they tried propagating a false message that these people, the government is training young boys and young girls, providing them with arms and ammunition, and they are indulging in looting, robbery, rape, etc. at the local level. And they also stage manage certain to showcase to the press that these are the handiworks of these people. At the second level, the intelligentsia wing swung into action, and they filed a PIL in Supreme Court, wherein it said how far the state wing is justified in providing arms and ammunition to the common masses to fend for themselves. So, the Supreme Court gave a very hard hitting judgment. It said that it is the duty of the government to save its people, not to provide them arms and ammunition to fend for themselves. This will lead to anarchy in the country. And after this, the state government has to retract, and the Naxals were successful. Now, by this time, this movement was hijacked by politician Mr. Mahendra Karma, who is no more now. He was assassinated in Sukma blast, and he started leading this movement. Now, it was no longer a tribal movement, so it failed miserably. So, the basic objective for which this movement was started, to isolate the Naxals from the commoner, it failed in that basic objective, and it pushed more commoners towards the Naxal in the end, right. So, the isolation part completely failed. So, since under security measures, though we have located, we could not isolate, so we could not eradicate. So, what to do now? So, when the government realized this, because no human intelligence was forthcoming, because this area was dominated by the Naxals, and the Naxals held an open court where police informers were tried openly and given harshest punishment, so that nobody dares to be a police informer. So, since human intelligence was not forthcoming, so the government realized that it has to depend on technological intelligence, and that is why it gave a go ahead to use unmanned aerial vehicle for intelligence gathering. So, for the first time UAV was allowed for intelligence gathering. Second, the government allowed the use of airplane, mind you, not for hardcore military operation, but for transportation of security forces, medical supplies and food supplies. Third, the government also gave a go-ahead to raise IRB, India Reserve Battalion. Now, India Reserve Battalion was to be raised from local youth and imparted with special training and provided with sophisticated weapon, so that they may be a potent force to fight with the Naxals. Similarly, mine protected vehicles were also provided to all Naxal affected states, because it was found that casualty through mine blast was maximum. So, in order to reduce the number, the government procured mine protected vehicle and provided it to all Naxal affected states. The Bureau of Police Research and Development and Ministry of Defence, they worked together to bring about modernization in police forces, because see what was happening. Police forces were wielding 303 rifles and the Naxals were armed with sophisticated weapons. Now, it was not, what you can say, a equal fight. So, the BPRD, Bureau of Police Research and Development, and this Ministry of Defence, they provided the police forces with sophisticated weapon and imparted them with the modern training. Right. So, counter-revolutionary measure is over. Now, the fourth one is surrender policy. Now, if we talk about surrender policy, from 2013 the government came up with a surrender policy, and as per that surrender policy, the government divided the Naxals under two heads. First, higher rank Naxal, and second, the middle and lower rank Naxal. Now, for higher rank Naxal, the day on which he or she surrenders, rupees 2.5 lakh will be deposited as fixed deposit in his or her name for a period of 3 years, and during this 3-year period, he or she will be imparted vocational training of their choice, and during this 3-year training period, they will be provided with a stipend of rupees 4,000 per month, and at the end of 3 years, subject to good behavior, they will be provided with fixed deposit along with that interest. So, it depends upon them whether to continue with that or to take out all the money. And since they have been equipped with skill, so it will be easy for them to provide to find employment opportunity, and in getting employment the government also helps them, so that they can lead a new life. And if they want to start their own enterprise, then in that case also they are free to do so. Now, for lower rank, for middle and lower rank Naxals, the other thing remaining same, that is the training period, stipend amount, etc. The total amount got reduced from 2.5 lakh to 1.5 lakh. Other thing remained the same for middle and lower rank Naxals. Now, recently in 2017, the government came up with what you can say Samadhan scheme. Now, Samadhan scheme, under the Samadhan scheme, what the government used to do? The government will see, Samadhan means what? Solution. Smart leadership. See, Samadhan is both short term and long term strategy. It's a combination of both, you can say. Whereas S stands for smart leadership, A stands for aggressive strategy, M is for motivation, A stands for Samadhan. A stands for just let me see, check, I'm forgetting it. Actionable intelligence. See, smart leadership, aggressive strategy, motivation and training, actionable intelligence. D is for dashboard approach. Now, it is based on key performance indicator. Like suppose the area which is covered by the Naxals, it is not similar everywhere. So, you have to have different plans for each theater. So, what is dashboard approach? Now, you where you say write key performing indicators and you work on it. If that is successful for that theater, you will continue with it. Otherwise, you will discontinue it. So, that is dashboard approach, which is based on key performance indicator. H is harnessing technology. Now, the security forces has been trained to harness technology. Why? Because these Naxals, they are not literate, well equipped or so educated so as to harness technology in such an effective way. They use traditional method till date. So, now lots and lots of mobile tower etc. are being set up and almost all of them are using mobiles etc. So, if security forces are properly trained and they know how to harness technology, then that will give definitive edge to security forces over the Naxals. So, that is why H stands for harnessing technology. Now, A here stands for action plan for each theater. As I told you under dashboard approach, that you should have separate plan which is successful in that particular theater. No single plan will be successful in every theater. For example, when Greyhound was very successful in Andhra, but same Greyhound was a complete failure in Odisha. And why that was so? Because in Odisha, the climatic condition, the language, the terrain, the intelligence input etc., they were not forthcoming because they were not locals there. That is why they flopped there. Now, N is no access to money. Now, if you stop the fund, half the battle is won, because it's the fund which keeps them going. Through that fund, they are supporting thousands and thousands of Naxal cadres, procuring arms and ammunitions, medical supplies, food supplies, everything. So, if that access is curtailed, then they will be definitely weak. So, that is samadhan. Now, aspirational district program. The aspirational district program focuses closely on improving people's ability to participate fully in the economy in order to enable the realization of their potential. So, the motto that was given by the government, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, to keep this motto alive, the government is committed to raising living a standard and ensuring inclusive growth for all citizens. So, that is the thing you can say. Now, here the districts are ranked, and accordingly the developmental work is being undertaken to bring them at par with all the districts. So, there are 49 key performance indicator which are selected say under 5 socio-economic themes: infrastructure, skill development, education, health, agriculture, water resources, etc. So, this is basically the aspirational districts. So, this chapter is also over. Now, we will move on to the border management, the third chapter. Now, I will give you an introduction part. See, under border management, we'll start with the background, then Department of Border Management, how and why it came into being, then individual border management. Under individual border management, we'll be focusing on 4 things. What is unique about that border? Second, what is the major problem along that border? When we say major problem, we'll be eliminating all the common problem. We'll be only focusing on major problem. Third, steps taken by the government. And fourth, the border guarding force on that particular border. So, for every border, we'll be focusing on these 4 aspects, right? Like suppose India-Bangladesh, so what is unique about Bangladesh border? What is the major problem on that border? What all steps the government of India has taken on that particular border, and which is the border guarding force on that border? Clear? Then Border Area Development Program, BADP, its aim, extent, its guideline, its funding pattern, and how it's being monitored. Then Integrated Check Post, ICP, Integrated Check Post. Then Port Security and Coastal Security. Now, coastal security you won't be doing here because we have already done under the introduction part. The coastal security you have dealt in detail, and steps taken to revamp coastal security also we have done. So, this time around the question on coastal security directly also you will see it came from the notes itself. I will just tell you about the question. What are the maritime security challenges in India? Discuss the organizational and procedural initiative taken to improve the maritime security. 150 words. So, background information. See, India has a huge coast, coastline, as you already know, 7,516.6 kilometers, and it has a land border of around 15,106.7 kilometers long. Now, this land borders, we have, I will give you just a breakup of that. With Bangladesh, we say 4096.7 kilometers. With China, three 23 Pakistan 3488. We have a international land borders of around 15,106.7 kilometers. The longest border is shared by Bangladesh, 4096.7 kilometers. China 3488, Pakistan 3323, then Myanmar 1751, then Nepal 1643. Sorry, that's other way around. Nepal should be 1751. Why this is happening? I don't know. Myanmar 1643, Nepal 1751, Bhutan 699 and Afghanistan 106. We considered Pakistan occupied Kashmir as integral part of India, as part of India, as I told you in the introductory lecture, and Pakistan considered it to be unfinished agenda of partition. But we consider it our own, and that's why that is also included. So total is 15,106.7 kilometers. Now, we have very porous land borders, and due to its porosity, lots and lots of problems are there. So when Kargil happened, so the government formed a Kargil review committee so that this kind of things doesn't happen in the future. Now, the Kargil review committee in its recommendation to the government of India said that the task force on border management be established. So the government established the first task force on border management under the chairmanship of Mr. Madhav Godbole. Now it was set up in 2001. So after independence, this was the first task force on border management. Now when it studied our border, and it was entrusted with the task of that how we should be managing our border efficiently and effectively. So the task force, after studying our border, came to the conclusion that our border cannot be efficiently and effectively managed, basically because of three inherent problems, and they are porosity, artificiality, and their disputed nature. And due to these, more and more problems are there on our border, like smuggling, trafficking, illegal migration, etc. Moreover, they also observed that multiplicity of forces employed to guard the same border and their repeated withdrawal for internal security duties also hampers in effectively managing our border. For example, like suppose, I am giving you an example, BSF is there on Bangladesh border, and BSF is suddenly withdrawn from Bangladesh border for another internal security duties, and some other forces, for example SSB is there. Do you think SSB will be more effectively? No way, because first it will have to understand the terrain, it has to study the loopholes, it has to establish a rapport with the locals, and then only it may be in a position to do its activities properly. So by the time it will do so, again it will be withdrawn and some other forces will be kept there. So, this was happening. Multiplicity of forces employed to guard the same border and their repeated withdrawal for internal security duties were hampering in maintaining effectively. So, when this task force on border management studied these, it submitted its recommendation to the government of India, wherein it very clearly said that the concerted efforts should be made at the highest political level to settle our border dispute at the earliest opportunity, so that we may be able to fence and floodlight our border properly to efficiently manage it. Secondly, they also recommended that Department of Border Management should be established at the earliest. Third, they also said one border guarding forces should be employed on one border and under no circumstances they should be withdrawn for internal security duties. Then fourth, in order to wean away the border population from indulging in any anti-national activities, border area development program should be undertaken at the earliest opportunity, so that people in the border area remain engaged with the developmental work. It will provide them with employment opportunity. It will give them a sense of belongingness that they are the part of the nation building activities, as well as it, and if the proper development of border area, then it will be also easier to provide logistic support to our security forces. It also recommended that the coastal or marine police should be set up and Indian Coast Guard should be strengthened. So, these were the recommendation of the Madhav Godbole committee. Now, based on its recommendation, Department of Border Management came into being. Now, as the name itself suggests, that it was to manage our international land and coastal border efficiently and effectively, so that there were faster movement of people and goods across the country, right. So, this was the, and so the DOBM, Department of Border Management, was established under Ministry of Home Affairs in January 2004. Now, the focused area of DOBM was to undertake floodlighting, fencing, construction of roads, strengthening border guarding and policing, all these activities, these were the focused area. And what all works it undertook? It undertook construction of fencing and floodlighting, say along Indo-Pakistan and Indo-Bangladesh border, construction of road along Indo-China and Indo-Nepal border. Then it undertook border area development program, and the present extent is immense. We will be talking about under border area development program. So, these are the works undertaken by Department of Border Management. Now, tomorrow when we will meet, we will talk about individual border management. Now, let me take some of the questions. Explain a little the strategy Samadhan to take down the. See, Samadhan basically is a combination of short and long term strategy. And as I told you that it comprises of smart leadership, aggressive strategy, motivation and training, actionable intelligence, dashboard. Dashboard, that is, it is based on key performance indicator, that what is effective in this theater. So that you should continue. If something is not effective, you discontinue with that. So you monitor every indicator which you are implementing there, that whether it is successful or not successful. Then H is for harnessing technology. A is action plan for each theatre, and N is no access to fund. So this is the combination of both short term and long term strategy to control Naxalism. See, we cannot use airplane and we can do carpet bombing kind of things, because as I told you that these Naxals are not among them, there are lots and lots of innocent tribals, children's, women, etc. So there will be collateral damage. So that's why, as I told you in the beginning, that these Naxals are smart people and they use them as a human shield to carry forward their ideology and to mobilize the masses. So that's why air strike and bombing etc. is ruled out. So sometimes Naxals uses banned landmines which are prohibited from international convention, or sea mine or land mine. What is the collective measures of Indian government, international community to counter this? Why supplies and funding to Maoist group? Who supplies sophisticated weapons and funding to Maoist? See, in the present geopolitical situation, as you know, that it's mostly the neighboring countries who think that if some country is progressing, their progress should be thwarted like this. So they support those elements which are involved in anti-national activities, and they fund them, they provide them with arms and ammunition. And since our border are very porous, especially the northeast border now, Myanmar, which is neither fenced nor flood lighted, and in Manipur case also, lots and lots of infiltration happened, due to which the problems got aggravated. So due to porous border, funding from outside, as well as the funding from what you can say in-house also, through ransom, through looting, through protection money, etc. So these are the source of funding mostly for the Naxals. And as regard the mine blast, that's why I told you under eradication measures that the government has procured mine protected vehicle for each Naxal affected areas, so that casualty from mine blast can be minimized. Now the Naxals have shifted to improvised explosive device, IED. They are now less using mine blast, because now they are not able to do anything through that. So they are using more sophisticated, more powerful tool, improvised explosive device. I think development not a big problem. Main problem is unemployment. See, if there is a proper development, then its fruits of development will reach each and every one. Now the population which has been devoid of fruits of development, so definitely they feel aggrieved, and they have every reason to feel aggrieved of, and that's why they are attracted towards that ideology. Now suppose in these areas, if the development that has happened in your state or in Delhi or in Bangalore or elsewhere, if that kind of development has been in their area as well, they could have easily got employment anywhere. So they wouldn't have been so much aggrieved in taking such extreme steps? Sir, if any Naxal surrender, how government come to know he is a Naxal? So there is a simple process. The police certifies that, okay, through intelligence unit, etc., that he is a Naxal or not. Then only he gets the benefit of surrender policies. How does laser fencing work in border? We'll come to it better. So tomorrow we'll be discussing in detail. So Ministry of Home Affairs decision in 2021, the extension of BSF jurisdiction within 50 kilometers from border, how it is being implemented or effected. See, okay, let me answer it here, otherwise we could have discussed tomorrow also, but anyway I will discuss. See, the use of drones. Now these drones can carry a payload of around 20 kg and fly up to 35 kilometers inside Indian borders. That is the maximum range they can fly. Now the BSF are trained to tackle these drones, but the local police are not well equipped to take that. Now the army, the BSF has the Arjun squad comprising of dog and eagles who are trained to take down the drones, and they have a special weapon also to shoot down the drones. So that's why their jurisdiction has been increased up to 50 kilometers in few states, and in some states it has been reduced from 80 kilometers to 50 kilometers, because no longer that long jurisdiction is needed now, especially in Gujarat and Rajasthan. In other areas their jurisdiction has been increased. Any more question, or should we wind up? Should I conclude? Yes or no? No message. Any more question you have? Thanks, Peter.